Good evening, Miss Faith Abram. I am Kizzy McCray-Sheppard, the Limitless Thought Leader, nurse practitioner, and the Limitless Lead You coach. This evening, I have the pleasure of welcoming two beautiful souls with me this evening to have the conversation about grief. And today is such a significant day for me. For today marks 20 years that I lost my father. I will never forget. It was 6:30, February the 15th of 2003. And even though it's been 20 years, it feels like it was just yesterday. And so at this time, we will go more in detail with that, but I want to introduce to you our special guest. The first guest here I have with me this evening is Dr. Pam Straker, who is the Director of Operations for the Brooklyn Health Disparity Center, and she is a research assistant professor for the Department of Medicine and College of Medicine of SUNY Downstate Medical Center. Dr. Straker is a licensed psychologist who has also had extensive experience in management and consultation. Dr. Straker has so much information that she needs to share with you all. I'm going to let her share a little bit more about herself as we move forward with this broadcast. The next individual that I have this evening is Judy Amber. Miss Amber is a God-loving mother. She's a United States veteran. She's a healthcare worker. And Miss Amber has experienced loss herself. And after losing her child at the age of 16, Miss Amber made it her life's business and her life story to go after speaking to others about healing in hardship because there's life after death. That is her saying. That's her motto. So, welcome, ladies. Welcome.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to ask if each of you, I'm starting with Dr. Straker, if you would share a little bit about yourself, just a little bit more detail, and what has called you to this work.
Well, the fact is that I've done all of this work in healthcare and in the field of psychology, but that does not necessarily prepare you for loss. And this summer, in August, I actually lost my mom. And that was after 20 years of caregiving. And so at this time, my focus and the work that I'm doing is to really help caregivers, those people who have dedicated their lives to caring for their loved ones and making sure that they're okay. I think there's certain messages that are critically important, and I want to be part of sharing those. So I do understand what you're saying, Kizzy, and I certainly empathize with Judy with her situation.
Thank you, Dr. Pam. And Judy, if you would tell us a little bit more about yourself and what led you to this work as a grief advocate.
Hi. So for me, it all started that I was working in healthcare for 20 years. And unfortunately, in the process of caring for other people, I had an unfortunate situation with my own daughter who became brain dead. And we had to decide what time to let her go. And in losing her, through the process of grief, because it is a lifetime process, my journey has led me to sharing my story to helping others heal, because people started asking me, how am I doing it? How am I smiling and living after such a tragedy? And that's what I try to spread out to the world, that there still is life after death. There's your life, that we still have a purpose on this journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So we've talked about why you all have been led on this journey. We have discussed that grief doesn't have an expiration date. We know there are 16 different types of grief out there, but tonight we're only going to hone in on two of those types of griefs. And the reason being is that we can't cover it all, but we know because there's 16 different types of grief. My grief doesn't look like your grief, and your grief doesn't look like mine. Everyone's grief is different. And with saying that, tonight we're going to begin the conversation around what is normal grief. I will give you the definition of what the researchers say normal grief is just briefly, and we're going to begin to talk around that. Research says that normal grief is the way we normally see people suffer a loss, and that is something that we see that the feelings are an outwardly grief, and it's what we expect. But then those that's one type of grief, but then we also can piggyback to the type of grief that's just a little bit different, and that's the absent grief, where we won't see what we believe grief should be. But being that there's so many different types of grief, I would like for you all to discuss to me what would you discuss about what you've seen with the normal grief process of what we quote unquote call normal, because we know people grieve different. So, Dr. Pam?
I think that probably we can begin by talking about what the accepted stages of grief are. Originally developed, this concept was originally developed by Dr. Kubler-Ross. However, it's expanded over the years, and the stages include number one, shock and denial. And there's an added stage called pain and guilt, a third stage called anger, fourth, bargaining, fifth, depression, sixth, reconstruction and working through, and seventh, acceptance and hope. Now, if I go back, shock and denial looks like you just can't believe it's happened, and you're really responding in a shocked way, and so you're kind of denying that you've had the loss. Pain and guilt, of course, you're having, after you get over the shock and denial, you're feeling pain about the situation, and often you're feeling as if you could have done something, so you feel guilty. The next stage is anger. And you will find that some people who are going through grief will lash out at others. Bargaining is the next stage, where you're making kind of you're bargaining with God. You're hoping that there can be some way
Mm-hmm.
that this can be taken back. Um, One of the most difficult stages is depression. And that's where we find it very difficult to bring people out of that sometimes. After you have been depressed, you may move to reconstruction and working through. So you're making some realistic steps and trying to work through what you're going to do with the grief. And finally, acceptance and hope. So you're thinking about things that you can do for the future. You're accepting the loss. And I feel as if I've gone through those very quickly, but those are pretty much the stages. They've been expanded to 7 stages versus the 5 original stages.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pam. I have here some audience involvement here. I have Aaron. Thank you for joining us. That has said many people have not grasped the concept that vulnerability equals strength, and it is not a lack thereof. I would have to agree with him that it has not. People have not grasped that. They think that it's weakness, but actually there's strength in that. Um, and we do have another one, but from the question for the statement that Aaron has mentioned, it brings me to and I want to bring this one um, to you, Judy. Often people do not want to talk about grief because they feel like they have to hide it. And Dr. Pam also mentioned depression. And so I want to kind of ask you, how did you deal with things after losing a 16-year-old child unexpectedly? What was that like for you, and what helped you to deal with and grieve healthy? How did you get a build that healthy relationship with grief?
Okay, that's
I
like
know it's a
that's a fully loaded question. But listen, I'm going to go off of piggybacking off of Dr. Pam. When you were going through the different stages of the grief, you are 100% right on those stages. But the thing is, what people don't understand, even though you have those stages, there is no specific order to them. Okay, you are
right.
all over the charts going back and forth on this whole journey. So, like, personally for me, I can say when it first happened, there is that total shock. You're just lost and gone, and you can't think anything. The mind is just like so blank. You don't see or hear anybody really. But as you're going through this, and it took me, I was hardcore in the grief process for, I believe, the first 2 years, like really hardcore, and didn't even know it. I remember when I started being asked to share, I didn't even know there were stages to grief because I was just going through this dang thing. And I'm going to be raw and honest with you, it sucks. But here's how I got through it. Every time when I go through this, because I still go through it today, don't get it wrong. Like Kizzy just shared, 20 years since she lost her father. It's 13 and a half years since I lost my daughter. I have not what I no longer call bad days. Some days are harder than others. But if I have this day that's hard, I allow myself to feel that. If I have to cry, I cry. If I feel like I have to scream, I'm going to go in my car somewhere where nobody hears me so you're not looking totally off the chain crazy, and you let it out. Go to a neighbor, knock on the door. I remember I went to my best friend's house one time and I knocked on her door and she just saw me and I'm like crying. And she was like, come on in. And all I could say is, Brandy, tell me that this is real. Tell me I'm not crazy because I can't see her, I can't feel her, and I need someone to tell me that I'm not straight up tripping right now because it's part of this process that you're going through. And I guess I was like, okay, I know this happened, but I felt like I couldn't feel the liveliness of her anymore. And that took on this whole
Mhm.
little role where I thought, what do I do? So reaching out to people because they're gonna hold you up. They're gonna hold you up, whether it's a
Mhm.
hug. Sometimes they'll just listen. They'll let you cry, whatever it is. But I want you to know that it's so important to go to people because you can't get through it alone. My faith has gotten me through having other people opening up, allowing myself to feel the pain when I need to feel it, because unless you feel it, you can't heal from it. That elephant in the room, talk about it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the happy times, all of it, until you get to a point where you're actually comfortable in sharing. Because now I can talk about my daughter and I can actually smile. And I remember the first time somebody made me laugh when I was going through the process, and I caught myself actually really laugh. I stopped instantly and said, whoa, wait a minute. Did I just laugh? I'm not allowed to do that. You can't do that. She's not here. But you can. You can.
Mhm.
So that a lot of it, it's just going through this process and allowing myself to really feel what I have to feel on any given day as you're going through it. Because if I block it and push it to the back burner, I'm not dealing with it and I'm never going to fully heal. So you're never going to genuinely, like, really be able to smile and live that life that you were destined to live, you
So,
know?
Judy, I'd like to, building on what you're saying, I think it is so important for us to also be patient with ourselves. What you're describing is the process you went through, it's nobody else's process, but having the
Mhm.
patience to allow yourself to feel the pain, to go through the process is so important. And another point I'd like to make, and I don't know whether you did this, Judy, but for many people, and certainly with the loss that you had, it would be not unusual that they seek outside help. So
Mm-hmm.
there are therapists who can help you with the expression of your grief, with all of the unexpected feelings you may have during that time. I think that to get across to our audience
Mm-hmm.
that reaching out for help, a form of the vulnerability that we spoke about earlier, is critically important to getting through this. And, so I think if we help anybody, we can say reaching for help is just, it's critically important.
It is
Absolutely.
100%.
I would also like to add to this is that we're talking about the loss of a loved one right now, but there's so many other type of loss. You could be grieving the loss of a you could be grieving the loss of a job, you could be grieving the loss of some other type of tangible things. That's why loss and grief is different for different people, because no one grieves the same. You were uniquely made for a reason, and if your DNA is not like mine, that means that you will not grieve the exact same way that I grieve. And when I heard you talk about the different things that you did, I started to think about the question that I had next was, what practices can one put into place to help with grief? And Dr. Pam has discussed, having a counselor. You've discussed your process, and then I began to think about, for me, what helped me was that my now husband, I met him, and he was my best friend. He became my best friend. He had already went through loss when he lost his mother, and he was able to help me as well. Not that I saw other things too, counseling, spoke to other spiritual counseling, you name it, I did it. And as I said before, just as Faith mentioned, she sees how, grieving is a lifelong process. It is a journey. To, like I mentioned earlier, it's been 20 years for me with the loss of my father, and me being also, I've worked in hospice. I was with hospice as a nurse practitioner in hospice. And I remember some of the things that we would do with our patients is to do in their families is a life review. And if you can do a life review, that helps too. It can help the person who's passing. And also I found that it helps families to build those, to discuss those memories. And even if that person isn't here, my advice would be to write a letter as if they are still here with you, or even something even greater. And I'm going to throw this in, is this recently, last November, I wrote with 9 other phenomenal women. We wrote this book, Daddy's Girl, Living After the Loss of a Legend. And putting it on paper, this is a way to also get through the grief. And for me, like I said, today was so profound for me to do this because it helps me to get through it. It's like I said, some days are harder than others. Today happened to be one of those hard days because it was the anniversary of the man that I first loved, the one who taught me how to drive a car, who taught me how to ride a bike, who gave me my first best friend, which was my dog. And I remember, as I was reminiscing today about when I started driving a car, my dad had a white SS Monte Carlo, and y'all know those are fast cars. That's the car I was driving, and I hit the curve, and I rode the curve just like he drive. My dad, he loved riding fast. He looked at me and said, "Baby girl," but like basically let me know, come up off of it. But he didn't know that I could literally. I hit the curve, went around and hit the curve just like him, like I was racing, because he was to take me to the Gator Nationals as well. So I began to reminisce about those times. And so for someone who is suffering a loss, don't forget to think about the memories, to reminisce, to write, because writing is therapeutic as
Well,
well. And let's go to the audience here.
okay.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to hear to yeah. I hear see here. Let me see. I gotta go. We have a lengthy one from oh, it says no one should ever have to apologize to another about the fact that they are simply being human. Hey man, Aaron, I agree.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Aaron has also we have so many comments coming in, ladies. And we have Aaron who is talking about the unfortunate thing is that while people are going through the grieving process, people try to pick something out of the DSM-5 to diagnose someone with that is simply going through a transitional change. Grief is not a disorder. Grief is a human response to someone that you have a deep connection with. Absolutely, Aaron. That is the first thing people want to do is look at DSM-5, diagnose you, and try to prescribe you medications.
Oh,
No.
Well, oh, please.
yeah.
Well, I do think there are a couple of things that this brings to mind. Number one, no,
Go ahead, Dr.
you
Hill.
know, you don't need to be diagnosed, though you do need to be kept safe. Um, I really am very heartened by the fact that both you, Judy, and you, Kizzy, had positive people around you, and you yourselves are outgoing people, so that you brought positive energy to you. Many people do not have those resources. So I just want to call to
Mm-hmm.
your attention that there can be a point of danger if you see someone sinking into a depression where they're having self-injurious thoughts or thinking of hurting themselves, where you see them doing things that are dangerous to themselves. So it's important not to accept the diagnosis as, that's the end all and be all, but to be with people where they are in grief. I also want to mention that grief, the three of us have lost people, right? But grief can also be about losing life stance, I'm calling it. So if we
Yes.
think about how many people going through the last couple of years, how much you've heard about suicidality, you've heard about angry acting out, but part of this is because there's a struggle right now to figure out who we are, in the context of all of the pressures and all of the different things that have happened in society. So that's really causing people to look at the loss of who we've been and who are we going to become. So grief
Absolutely.
and loss is it can be associated with more than grief and loss of a specific person. And I think that that needs to be respected also. Many of us have heard get over it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Oh,
just
yeah.
get over it.
You no, no. And you're
Yes,
right,
I've
Dr.
heard that.
Pam. You're
I've
right,
heard
Dr.
this
Pam,
many
because I
times to get over it, and you don't get over it. That's again where I tell people just, no, you're not going to get over it ever, and nor should you.
Mhm.
You're going to live with this forever
no,
because of the love you have for the person that you're missing. It's not going to
And
go
Judy,
away.
you're saying you're
absolutely.
going to live with it forever, but it may evolve to a more, I'm going to call it, I may mistake it, please forgive me if I do, but to a state where you can be productive
Yes,
surrounding the loss. That's how
yes,
I'll state it.
yes,
Um, if
Absolutely.
you had a long time of seeing a person leave, as I did for both of my parents, by the time the person leaves, first of all, you're exhausted because you have supported them as they were taking leave. You now are dealing with the loss, and you really have to figure out, is there something you can do with this that can be positive? And I think that, Judy, definitely you have talked about how you've made positive things come of your loss. Kizzy is making positive things come of her loss, and my and I'm trying to do the same.
Yes. Can I piggyback off that a second? Because even in that process,
Yeah.
what it looks like now to see me now, this wasn't me some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was in that beginning stage as well. So I love when you talk about the productiveness of it, because there was a time when I didn't think it was possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that's where a lot of the encouragement comes in, because I try to, I if you would have saw me when I was in that down and out, I mean, it was just ridiculous. People were telling me, I remember, like I said, I remember 2 years sticks with me, because somebody had said, "Oh, hey, Judy, you're looking really good. You're getting your color back." And that blew my mind, because I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't realize that I was looking even more, ash, and just, not living with the living.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wouldn't know me then to know me where I am
Mhm.
now, I struggled just like everybody else does. I remember not getting up out of bed. I
Mm-hmm.
remember the tears and just the emptiness, watching, I have other children, watching their hurt and pain, and trying to more or less get to a point where I push mine to the side to try to deal with them and help them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how do you do that?
Mhm.
Because it's not just about you. There's other people that lost that loved one too. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to open that whole avenue,
Yeah.
and if oh my gosh, I just feel like I just want people to hang in there and have a faith or something, because it, I think when people see me, what I want them to see is that if I can make it, so can you. And please hang in there and know that it's gonna be okay.
We
It's
have some people that are saying they had losses, and I want to express
Yes.
my real just I hope that this show is helping you in some way. And one of the things I would like to talk about a bit, if there is room for it, is exactly how others can be of assistance to people who are going through grief and
Right.
loss. And I'm going to express a couple of ideas and then, let you guys take over. But it's not about like telling your story to the person at the same time they're
Mhm.
going through grief. It's about just being available, just listening without giving advice, um, not offering your story at the same time, allowing the expressions of anger to be, you know, felt and heard without your having a significantly negative reaction. There are many ways in which you can help people who are going through grief.
Yes. Absolutely. Dr. Pam, I just was just here and thinking about Judy, you have I'm gonna go over this back. Judy, you have Aaron, who was just letting you know that your life and I'm just going to paraphrase this, things that you've been through in your life will help others, even if you never see them, or your daughter's life, and you obviously changed your daughter's life as she did yours, and that is something to celebrate, and just for you to keep smiling and keep laughing, he says. And then we have here let's see, I'm trying to get here. We have Miss Gussie Boatwright, who said that she lost her grandson 2 years ago. I think that's the message that Dr. Pam was talking about. That she's praying for you all and encouraging you all. We have here Gussie is telling Aaron, amen. She's agreeing with you here. We have Aaron again that is saying that he works at a psych hospital in clinical settings, and he's
Mhm.
talking about um, unfortunately, it's unfortunately when one becomes practiced in as a necessity at times. I help Latino inmates write grief letters, journals, and other practical ways to work through the grief of loved ones as a part of his job. That is right. Those are the things. Because my next question was, what advice would you all give to someone who has lost a loved one? And Dr. Pam has piggybacked on, and then we have Aaron who's giving some advice. And I mentioned before about writing and doing a life review, also
I mean, some
seeking
of the
counseling,
simple things.
joining
Yes.
joining groups, bereavement
Mhm.
groups. If you have a hospice center close by you, they have them. You don't have to, your person, your loved one didn't have to die in hospice for you to go and join a bereavement group. They have those. And you all, if you could just throw out some as well, as we're gonna look at these.
I think
And also I would like to say, go ahead, Dr. Pam.
I was going to say, for those people who don't have the talent or don't feel the energy to write, you can start with gathering all the pictures you have. So start with a photo journey about it. Take notes to yourself in your journal about your best memories of the person. If there are other members of your family who are struggling also, join with them in the photos and the storytelling about that person, and about the qualities, how they changed your life, what was most important to you. Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Make
Absolutely.
a storyboard. So, there's writing the story and then there's making a storyboard. And also just accept others' help. When my dad passed away, I had a friend who knew that one of my favorite things was blueberry cobbler and vanilla ice cream. And she brought me the blueberry cobbler and the vanilla ice cream. I put it in the bowl. I climbed into my bed and I cried as I ate the vanilla ice cream and the blueberry cobbler. So whatever it takes to get you through those moments, you really, really need to give that to yourself. Let others give to you.
Absolutely. I agree, Dr. Pam. That is great advice. Also, if you know someone who's grieving, because we already know that grief doesn't have an expiration date. Everyone wants to give you a time, but there's no expiration date to grief. Reach out to someone. If it's just saying, "Hey, let's go to brunch," uh,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, girls, let's get together," you know, game night, whatever it may be. Sometimes when someone's lost someone who's close to them, or like Dr. Pam said, income change, right? You can be that person that's their support system, even if it's you just saying, "Hey, y'all, let's get together and come over together at someone's house, and y'all do something fun together as girls, potluck, whatever it may be, where it doesn't take a lot of money because that person has lost a huge income.
Mm-hmm.
There's a change, right? Or if they lost a loved one, it's still they need something around them, because if you don't have that, you can go into depression and it's hard for someone to come out. But be that person that person needs to see. Be that smile that they need to see. Be the words that they need to hear. And I see that Miss Gussie Boatwright is saying it takes a village to raise a kid and a village to
Yes.
help grieve. And that is
Yes.
absolutely right. No one can grieve alone, but you can help them. They have to grieve. They can't grieve alone. They're going to grieve on their own way, but because there's a process. But you can be a part of that village, helping them to work through their process. And the grief can be lifelong, but there's an acute grief, and then there's a chronic grief. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Something that acute has happened recently within 3 months, right? And it's fresh and it hurts. But there's a lifelong grief that's chronic, like that chronic backache that you have that's kind of always there, but you've learned to tolerate it. And as grief continues to go on, it's a journey, and you've learned how to cope better because you've found healthy ways to do so. So, and I see here, Miss Gussie Boatwright has also said grieving is a personal journey that we have begun a foundation in his name. Oh, so she's begun a foundation in her grandson's name. That that's
Mm-hmm.
that's amazing. Okay, so that's something, and then that is very beneficial, and it helps because now you know that you're affecting change for others as well. Um,
Absolutely.
I have another question. First, do you all have anything to piggyback off of that? And we're going to ask another question. And then just want to let you all know we're going to begin to close and let you know that this will not be the last conversation. But I'm going to ask Judy, do you have anything to piggyback off of what we've said? I'm going to see what other questions we have in here. Go ahead.
I was listening when you had said about reaching out. And again, you won't always have people that will reach out. And I remember along the process, there was a point when two people actually reached out to me because they saw me going in that spot and didn't take no for an answer and said,
Mhm.
come on, we're going.
Mhm.
So you can always turn around and be that person that says, hey, come on. Even if you don't feel like it, I'm taking you, because
Mhm.
it actually does a lot of good to get you out. And even if you don't feel like going out, it's good. It's
Mhm.
really good. So, I
Mhm.
like to turn around, be that person that can pull someone else out that doesn't want to ask for that help. So if you're not someone that's going through a loss right now, be that person reaching out to somebody else. And just because it's not fresh, or after like that, because at first when someone passes away, everybody's there. But then after that dies out, everybody's gone. But we still need you.
Mhm.
So, it takes a few people to still come by and check on people, make sure they're okay and pull them out. And that can help avoid that whole depression thing.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I
Okay,
th-
thank you. Now, last and final question for this evening. It is, often people have things that when someone's gone, they wish they would have said and they didn't say, and they let that eat them up. What advice would you give them to help them deal with the I didn't get a chance to feeling?
I think Judy said it earlier. Write the letter. I think you said it, Kizzy.
I said it.
Write the letter, and write multiple letters. So, you may today think about this one thing you should have said, write it down, make sure that you express it. And, really don't run away from it. We all have things that we could have, would have, should have. We need to allow ourselves to express it. Hopefully, in Judy's situation, there is nothing that can be said about normalizing the loss of a child. It's not the way we anticipate it should be. So there are many letters that Judy may have
Oh, I
from
do.
her daughter.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, expressing it, getting it out, and celebrating the fact that you do have these things, these conversations you still may have with your daughter. That's the way to deal with it.
I can add one more to that. Along with just
Go
writing,
ahead.
look at your loved one's picture, put it in front of you, talk to them. It's okay. It's okay.
Mhm.
Talk to them. And if you have a faith, you kind of feel like, maybe they can hear you.
Mhm.
Whoever came back and said they couldn't. But, look at their picture and talk to them. It's so okay. And it gets it out there. It's actually a beautiful thing.
Yes. And I see someone is ready to cook for us.
Yes, I have Aaron said that he's ready to get to, he's a former chef, so he'll do the cobbler for you, Dr. Pam, and some ice cream anytime. We have here our fellow sister, Dr. Marcia Whitaker, and she is the visionary behind our book here,
Yes, she
Daddy's Girl
is.
Living After the Loss of a Legend. Please, if you all desire to have an autographed copy, I'm going to go ahead and sneak this in now. Go to limitlesspossibilitiesnow.com. I'll also put it in the chat, and you can get an autographed copy of this book. And I would like to say, with that being said, I how we came about this book is profound as well. I have here. I'm gonna put that plug in on that. Here, Miss Gussie Boatwright has said, I have found comfort in text messaging exchanges that he and I exchange. That is very comforting, Miss Boatwright. Also, for me, what I did for me, even if it's a parent, you might have to have multiple letters. And I want to put that out there because it depends on what age you're. So for me, I dealt with the fact my father would never see my son. He would never meet my children. He wouldn't do this. He wouldn't do that because I was young.
Mhm.
So there might be
Mhm.
multiple letters. And so for the book, now this picture piggybacks because I talk about it in Daddy's Girl about how there were so many things that I wanted to share with him, so many things that I wanted to do with him. And I get a chance now to live out that he wanted me to do. And one part of that is that I am a Florida Gator now. I am working on my doctoral degree. And that is something that I talked to my dad about many, many years ago. And my mom continued to push me. So as I wrote this book, it was like a rite of passage because at the same time, I was starting my new journey with this book.
Mm-hmm.
And this book came about because one of our fellow co-authors, Michelle, lost her father in June, and all of us rallied behind her to support her. And in that rally, Dr. Marcia says, this should be and the profound thing about it, every last one of us, all 10 of us ladies, have something in common. Not just the fact that we lost our fathers, but the connection, because we have one individual in this book whose father is still living, but he's at a state where he's not where he was. So she's lost the dad that she knew him to be, that vibrant man. And so many people may be facing that. It could be MS, that you've lost your dad. It could be Alzheimer's because he doesn't know you, but he's physically here, but mentally, his cognitive level, he's not present with you. So I would urge you all, if it's not for you, but if for someone else, to go get this book, because we have so many people talking about it and how it's helping them to process loss. And at this time, I'm going to give you all the opportunity, Dr. Pam and Judy, to say anything else that you would like to say to the audience before we close out this evening, because this is going to be a discussion that's going to keep going on, because there's so many to grief. We touched on one today. Didn't even get a chance to get to the absent grief that we thought we were going to be able to get to, but we will get to that too, ladies and gentlemen who are joining us. Okay.
Well, I would like to thank. I just want to thank.
Go ahead,
Kizzy, for giving me the opportunity to talk with everybody about this. I welcome the opportunity to do it again. And I hope all of us will stay in contact on this topic because it's critically important. And that's all I have to say today.
I can't.
Okay.
You've said
Thank
it all.
You,
and
Dr. Pam.
Well. Dr. Pam, you said it all and you said it so well. I have to agree 100%. Kizzy, thank you. And, you know, with your father, knowing that he passed 20 years ago, you've been in my heart and mind all day today. You know, and I do understand the loss of a father too. I have also lost my father. I've lost both parents. Yes. So I get it. I get it.
Both of us have done it. Yes.
Yes. You know, I've like been all around the world on all levels of everybody, really. Mm-hmm. But Kizzy, I thank you with all my heart. And I too hope that everybody comes back and we keep this going, because it's something that's important.
Yes, that we need to, because
it's something that people don't want to talk about because it's a hard topic, but we have to, so we can help each other get through this. It's very beautiful.
Absolutely. So ladies, is there anything either of you all have going on that we can support, where we can listen in, tune in, let the audience where they can know where they can connect with you at on social media platforms?
Okay, so I am on LinkedIn under Dr. Pam Straker, and I am on Facebook, and my website will go live actually at the end of this week, so I soon will be able to give that out. And I address issues around caregiving. And so if anybody would like to speak to me about that, please contact me at About Me, Dr. Pam Straker, and it's on the website aboutme.com, and you'll hear from me soon. I'm also finishing a book, and that should be out within the next 6 months. So it's been a pleasure.
Nice.
Thank you. So, Judy.
I am also on Facebook and LinkedIn under Judy Amber. And I do have a website as well, judyamber.com, or you can go to eliminateexcuses.com.
Mm.
They're interlinked because I help people eliminate excuses that we're all making that are holding us back, whether it's loss of someone or something. So you can feel free to reach out to me on my website, and we're super easy to find. Open book, and I'm just there to support other people.
I have one last comment that I'm going to post up in from Aaron, and I'm just going to kind of close out with that. Aaron says it is also important to recognize that even if someone comes from a broken home, violent situation, etc., one must still find a way to grieve for that person in a healthy way. Absolutely, Aaron. Despite the fact that negative feelings were the norm while they were alive, they deserve that respect and death by you, as you should that of others. Absolutely, Aaron. I agree. I'm going to leave on that note with I had speak to me about that home. I said, your father is still here. And if I had 1 minute with mine, what would I say about the last 20 years? I would try to put everything in 1 minute. I would try to tell him about my husband, about what I'm doing now, about my son, about my daughter, what they're doing. It would be so much that I would try to get in 1 minute. So you're right. Even if it was an unhealthy relationship, even if they're alive or even in passing, you still have to deal with that grief because you're grieving something at some point, whether they're alive. If they're alive, you're grieving that not having the relationship that you wish that you had. If they're gone, you're grieving still not having that relationship, and now they're gone and you can't make it right, but you still can by writing those letters. I want to thank each and every one of you all for tuning in this evening. I want to thank Dr. Pam, and I want to thank Judy. I want to thank all of my co-authors for the great book. I want to let you all know that you can reach out to me on any social media platform as Kizzy McCray-Sheppard, or on Limitless Possibilities Now. You can connect with me as well on my website, limitlesspossibilitiesnow.com. Social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook, Kizzy McCray-Sheppard and Limitless Possibilities Now. And if you are a lady out there, go find the group Unleashing Limitless Her Mindset on Facebook, Unleashing the Limitless Her Mindset on Facebook, and join that group. We are doing things. We are helping people. We want to see everyone win in this season. And it's all about mindset, love, and peace, and happiness, and joy. Thank you all for joining us. We thank you
Thank you.
all so much this evening. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pam. I'm just posting some stuff up as we close out. Thank you for joining Miss Johanna from St. Croix. Thank you. You all have a great evening. Love you.
Thank
Love you
you.
all. Later. See you next week. Oh,
Okay.
see you Saturday too.
Okay.